overall, I have found that giving myself grace and not trying to keep it all balanced has been my best secret weapon.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Hey, Laurel, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been so excited about this.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So I know that you're a wife, a mom, a Jesus lover. You do social media managing part-time, and then you're also an influencer part-time, but full-time, you just kind of do your own thing and march to the beat of your own drum, which I love. I would love it if you could just kind of share with our audience what you do. What does your day-to-day look like as a mom of three with two part-time jobs and just balancing all the things?
Yes. So no 2 days are ever the same, which makes things extra crazy, but also fun, spontaneous, and exciting. But yes, I have 3 kids and a husband, and they are all three in school, which has made getting work done a lot easier. It's hard, like, finding time to really just, like, sit down and hone in on work. But my day to day is usually getting started pretty early in the 5 o'clock range. And I try to start every single day just spending time with the Lord, reading, doing a Bible study, catching up on Bible recap, which I'm a huge fan of.
Have you been doing Bible recap this year?
Yes, love it. I did it 2 years in a row, and then I didn't do it last year, but I'm back on it this year. And it's new every time. I love it.
This is my first year doing Bible recap, but I really am enjoying it so far.
Yes, it is so wonderful. And even though this is my 3rd year to read the Bible cover to cover, I learned something brand new every single day. It's so much fun because, I've heard all this stuff. I've read these exact words before, but I'm still learning. So it's really exciting. So after I've had my quiet time, I get my older 2 up, get them ready for school, get them off, get my youngest up, get him ready for school, get him off, and then I try to go straight to work. I try to get myself decently, like, presentable between getting the older 2 off and getting my youngest up and going. So that doesn't always happen, but it's okay because I kind of get to create my own schedule, which I'm so thankful for, and it's such a blessing in this season of motherhood. I am able to kind of adjust things to make it to where I can get the work done that I need to get done, but also be able to devote the time that I really want to devote to my family.
So, balancing a part time social media manager role, being an influencer, and a full time mom must be quite the juggle. I can only imagine. How do you find rhythm in all this chaos and really ensure that you're taking care of yourself around this busy schedule?
I don't love the word influencer. I'm just putting that out there. I feel like we're all influencers of each other in one way or another, but I'm fortunate and grateful enough to have been able to monetize that and make it part of my work. So it's really fun. So, work, being an influencer and doing social media for a local store are flexible. So I try to kind of keep a good, healthy rhythm. We talked about this a little bit before, where I'm not much of a balance person. I'm more of a rhythm person because I feel like if you really think about it, balance is really easily thrown off. And rhythm gives you a little wiggle room on either side of the balance beam. Picture somebody on a tightrope and having weights on either side, and keeping those perfectly balanced is super hard because if something tips over here, then the whole thing is thrown off and you're falling off the tightrope. But I like to think of more like floating in the ocean, like being able to go up with this season and down with this season, but still, you're still rocking along. So that's kind of my visual as far as rhythm.
I love it.
That's another thing is I try to plan my weeks like a week or 2 in advance just so I can know, like, I've got this on Monday and this on Tuesday, so I'm gonna need to kinda take it easy on Wednesday so I can gear up for Thursday and Friday. It's a lot, and sometimes I feel like I'm just making it work as I go.
Just like
Uh
barely above those waves.
yeah, but overall, I have found that giving myself grace and not trying to keep it all balanced has been my best secret weapon because balance is hard. Sometimes you just kinda have to go with the rhythm. But
Yeah. I really do like that analogy. I think that if we try to say we're going to balance everything, that is hard to do because we're ultimately not giving one thing our all. We're just kind of trying to disperse ourselves. And we end up being just barely being able to do one thing or the other, but being able to go with more of the ebb and flow, like you said, and just focus more attention on certain things at certain times. That just is much more realistic. So, I love that. I love
yeah,
that analogy. I think a lot of people don't think about that whenever they say balance. Like, balance is key. Depends on how you define balance too, right?
right, that's right. The
So
tightrope example, like, there's no wiggle room, but with balance in other areas, maybe there is a little more wiggle room.
right. So, let me ask you this. Talking about, like, you going with the ebb and flow and just the rhythm of things, what is your thought on other women prioritizing self-care without all this pressure to do it all and be superwoman? Like, do you have any practical tips for other moms that may be struggling with balance?
Yes, I am such a people pleaser, and I don't want anybody to be mad at me, and I wanna say yes to everything that I'm asked to do, but physically and mentally and emotionally, I just don't have that bandwidth, and nobody does, to say yes to every single thing. I read with my small group probably 10 years ago this book by Lisa TerKeurst called The Best Yes, and it talks about how saying no to certain things allows you to say yes to the best things. And I feel like as moms, especially moms of multiple kids, we're asked to help put on this event and be room mom and plan this party. And also, we've got our duties of keeping the house semi running with laundry and dishes and dinner and packing lunches and all these things, there's no way that we can say yes to everything. Oh, all this on top of, like, our day jobs, you know? So, there's no way to do it all. So, being able to prioritize which yeses are best has been life-changing for me because I want to say yes to everything, but I know I can't. I've learned my limits, which I do feel like I'm still kind of learning a little bit. It's a lifelong lesson. But learning where maybe my strengths are and what I enjoy doing outside of, my home and work life that I may or may not have time to say yes to. My yeses are going to go to things that I enjoy doing. I've learned the hard practice of saying no when things just don't align with my priorities. And I try to prioritize things by like, is this helping me grow in my faith or as a wife or as a mom? Or is this helping my business? And if it doesn't really fall in any of those categories, then unfortunately it's probably going to have to get a no. And I feel bad about it sometimes, but then in the long run, I'm usually really glad that I was able to say no. And, sometimes saying no gives somebody else the opportunity to say yes to that position. And that may be the calling that they've been praying for, you know? So saying no to one thing might open it up for somebody else to give a big resounding yes. So we do feel the pressure to do all the things and be super mom, but we can't do everything. And I think that's a hard lesson for moms to let themselves take in, for me anyway. And you
Yeah.
nod your head like you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, no, I I agree, and I think you have to really know what your values are and what's important to you so that you can set those boundaries and say no. And no is not a bad word, it's just a hard word sometimes.
That's right. I love that. Not a bad word, it is a hard word. But I think that's also teaching our kids, them watching us prioritize things based on our values helps them learn how to prioritize things even without them realizing it.
That is a good point. I think saying no in front of our kids, maybe to our spouse or somebody else, that saying no, we can't commit to this and saying why, that does give our kids, oh, okay, like they're not just being mean and saying no, or they're just not saying no because they don't want to, but them seeing us show other people that no, like I'm not capable of that right now. I'm too busy with the other important things or something. That's always a good example to set for our kids.
Yes, I totally agree.
So I think that you did kind of touch on this, but Laurel, I know that faith is such an important part of your life. Can you tell me how faith influences your approach to wellness and how you integrate that into your daily routine?
So I do feel like from the standpoint of faith and health, they go really hand in hand because the Lord has called us, you and me specifically, and a lot of listeners to be moms and to also use our God-given talents to help others in our line of work. Whatever our calling is, we most likely can't do it if we're sick or in the bed or not feeling good. So I do think that prioritizing health and trying to eat nutritiously and sneak in some workouts every now and then and get enough rest and just give your body time to reset. I think that those are paramount in feeling our best so we can give our best to our family and serving our community and doing our jobs well. I think that faith and our God given talents, which we use for work and then caring for our people, all are best and we're doing our best when we feel good. So I do feel like I've loved hearing about your journey to finding health because I know it's hard when you don't feel good to mother 3 kids and do your job. And you probably I mean, you are Superwoman, so you probably excel at doing those things even though you don't feel great, but it's just so much easier when you do feel good. So I do think that being able to prior just healthy habits is super important.
Yeah. Well, thank you for calling me Superwoman. I'm flattered. I'm nowhere near, but yes, just I think for me, like finding my health and feeling my absolute best. I mean, I almost had to hit rock bottom first, but something you said too was like going to the Lord first. I found myself not going to him first for so many things beforehand. And then once I started going to him first, whether it was like with a issue I had with myself or somebody else, and just, sometimes something happens and we call our best friend first, right?
Mhm.
But once I just kinda tried, I'm not perfect, I don't do it all the time, but it's like instead going to him first, like, "Okay, Lord, what do I need to do?" Putting him first, that was a big game changer for me. But like you said too, fitting in a workout when you can. There are so many seasons of life, especially with multiple children, where your workout time or movement time is going to look so different. And that's completely okay. There are some weeks where I'm like lucky if I get to go on a walk or do some yoga, but I still try to move my body in some way every day. But sometimes that might just be for 15 minutes, right?
Right.
But the consistency of it is what puts me in a good place mentally.
Yes. I know I am trying to just run up and down the stairs when I can or, you know, do a brisk walk to the mailbox on days that I know I'm not gonna be able to actually do like a actual workout.
Yeah. It's hard. It
That's
is
the thing
hard.
for me.
it's all about the ebb and flow of it and the different
Right.
seasons.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned seasons because I really do feel like our seasons define so much about what we're prioritizing. And I think back to like when I had my 3rd child, we pretty quickly found out that he was profoundly deaf and that he was gonna have the opportunity to get cochlear implants if we went that route, which would give him the gift of hearing. And we were offered to be a part of a study at the hospital with our implant company, and I knew that it was gonna be really, really hard to continue working at the job that I had at the time and also being a good mom to my kids. So after praying about it and lots of tears because I loved my job, I decided to step away from work just because I knew that when it came down to it, I could not be a good employee and a good mom. And I knew that motherhood was my ultimate calling. It was so hard to step away from work and just put all of my energy into taking this child to the hospital every week for studies and observations and all this stuff. And now that that season is kind of come to a close, I mean, he's still deaf and he still wears cochlear implants, but the study is done at the hospital. So I have been able to go back to that job that I left and still, be able to find that I've got a healthy rhythm with work and with motherhood. And I did not feel like I would be able to have a healthy rhythm if I was continuing both of those things. So it was a season of just having to pick, and it was hard, but it was very worthwhile. And I'm glad that I listened to the nudges that the Lord gave me to step away from work for a season and just put all my energy behind helping my baby.
Yes. I love how you were faithful, though, to what the Lord was calling you to do, and then you did get to go back to that job.
The timing worked out so beautifully. I'm getting chills talking about it. Like when I was ready to go back, the girl who had taken my position was stepping away. And so it was just divine timing, honestly, that it worked out the way that it did, where I could go back when I was ready and when she
Yeah.
was ready to move on to the next thing. So worked out
Yeah.
beautifully.
That's awesome. I know, like, you mentioned rest, which is so important. What does rest look like to you? Like, whenever you have to step back and take a break from all your responsibilities, what does that look like to you? I have a hard time with rest, okay?
Me
I'm
too.
a go, go, go person. So for me, taking a step back from work looks like me spending time with my kids, and me taking a break from my kids and family life and the house and everything is like going to work.
Yes.
So are you kind of the same way or
Yes. So funny that we planned to talk about rest because listeners, Allison and I go to the same church. Allison, I don't know if you were there on Sunday, but that was the topic was Sabbath and
Yeah.
resting. And I loved how they talked about in the service and then we talked about it in life group how back in ancient times, the Jews worked really, really hard to prepare for Shabbat, which was their Friday evening meal, so they could sit down with their friends and family and then have the day ahead of them to rest and reconnect with the Lord. And we talked in our life group about how you had to work really hard to have that rest. But that rest was so imperative to being able to recharge so you could work really hard. So it's a beautiful cycle of working hard so you can rest and resting so you can work because we're called to work. The Lord, you know, told Adam, your job is to work this land and to tend to these animals and to tend to the plants. But I do find it so hard to make myself sit still. I'm not a good rester. So I really do have to almost schedule it in. And like right now, I'm getting ready to be a host home for Together Weekend. So right now, a lot of my energy at the beginning of the week was like, get all my work in, schedule stuff, batch out some content. So that part is done. So like yesterday and today are full throttle vacuuming, wiping down bathrooms, changing sheets, getting my house ready to host a bunch of teenage girls for the weekend. But I have scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week to not have any meetings, to be able to really just maybe sleep in a little bit or take a nap after the kids get off to school because I am kind of going 90 to nothing right now, like in these few days. But I know that there's scheduled rest ahead. So that gives me the energy and the gusto to put in all the work right now because I know that rest is ahead. So I think that when we prioritize at least a little pocket of rest, it helps us work better and harder and more efficiently because we know that there's a time of recharge on the calendar in the near future. So that is how I have found for me personally to be able to get rest. I have to schedule it in. I have to plan work around it. And it's not perfect all the time every week, but I do love just being able to schedule in a rest period for myself so I can recover and, just take extra time to reconnect with the Lord. And that's something that I'm not great at doing, honestly, is spending my rest. Like after the sermon, I'm like, okay, I need to rethink what rest even looks like, you know?
Yes, it was very convicting for me as well. I really don't stop. And it does help me though to remember that like scientifically, like when we are resting and sleeping and all of that, that's when our body is actually like recharging and digesting our food more appropriately. And like all of our drainage systems are working appropriately. So like I have to remember like, okay, what am I accomplishing right now? Because I'm all about productivity. And it can be a blessing, but it also can be a bad thing because that's kind of like I go 90 to nothing sometimes. But that was very convicting for me as well. I've tried to reestablish my morning routine and then like my evening routine, just really sitting down. And I usually do my Bible study in the morning, but then in the evening, I'll read a book for a little bit and just sitting still doing that and having a cup of tea. Like for me, that's like a big deal because I don't ever sit still
Yeah.
that long.
Oh man, that sounds glorious. I need to adopt that habit
It's
because after the kids go down, I'm like, okay, I gotta unload the dishwasher and reload it and go try to do 5 minutes of folding clothes.
I try so hard to, like, get all that stuff done during the day, and I try to close the house down after dinner. I try to get that all done, and our youngest still sleeps in the bed with us, so half the time, he's still right there, but that's a whole other situation trying to get him out of there, but it's also a battle I don't wanna fight right now because I like my quiet evenings, and I'm like, I'd rather not deal with all the fussiness, but
It's
just
a
sitting
season.
there reading a book. It is. It's a season, and I know it'll pass, and he won't be sleeping in our room till he's 20. So, I'm just trying to enjoy it while it's there.
But those are sweet times, having a baby sleeping
Yeah.
next to you. So I think you're wise to not pick an unnecessary battle and just enjoy the quiet. You probably have to be really quiet, what like sitting there reading your book and drinking your tea if he's asleep in there. So that's almost like a way to force yourself to rest. Be smart.
I try to think smarter, not harder, but
That's
well, Laurel, this has been an awesome conversation. It's been so fun to connect with another mom and just kinda see how you do things day to day. I know it's always nice to hear just somebody else's insight into things.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and it is great and very refreshing to talk to another busy mom just to compare notes.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to AllisonandWellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, If you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at AllisonandWellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.